Just because you're a great basketball player doesn't at all mean you're guaranteed a great reputation and legacy. Because some of the greatest NBA players we've ever seen, well, they're actually not remembered too fondly, even if their names are in the history books. Take Michael Jordan for example, the greatest and arguably the most popular basketball player of all time. He's the best player we've ever seen, but his legacy, maybe not so much. Because while he has great moments on the court that made his career legendary, off the court there's a ton of stories that have hurt his reputation. From his personal issues with gambling, not being all that great of a person, being too hard on his teammates, and gaining a reputation as probably one of the meanest celebrities in the world today, things like that hurt how he's remembered. His on-court career couldn't have been better, but off the court could have used some work. And that's the same thing that got Magic Johnson. You see, even after all these years, it's still unanimously agreed that Magic is the greatest point guard of all time and a top 5 player ever. Through the championships and MVPs, he's easily one of the very best the game's ever seen. Fans look back at his career and understand the historical importance of what it was. But of course, everyone also looks back at how it ended in a not so positive light. It's unfortunate that the legacy of Magic has always had that asterisk next to it. That anytime you bring him up, there's always a chance he turns into the butt of a joke, thanks to the sickness he got in his personal life. Johnson's always talked about as one of the greats, but always at the same time met with disrespect for how his career ended. And even on the court too, it hurts his own reputation with the fact that he did something that caused his career to end way too soon, which will never be forgotten. And while some point guards have already ruined their legacies, others are just starting. Just look at Ja Morant, who if he keeps this up, he will undoubtedly go down as one of the best players with the worst reputations. He's in his 4th year and recently signed a 5-year max deal worth $194 million, a deal that'll go into effect next year. And he's without a doubt earned it. He was in the middle of his 2nd straight year averaging 27 points a game, and this season he was doing it again to go along with 8 assists and 6 rebounds a night. So for being just 23 years old, there's no doubt that he was on pace for a great NBA career. But with everything that's going on with him right now, it's throwing it all into question. Because we know what happened last time a great point guard got into trouble with a weapon. Personally, I think it's good that he's getting help, and I think with social media and everything we've seen in the past, there's no way he doesn't get enough help by veterans and really everyone in the NBA world to prevent history from repeating itself. But maybe that's just hopeful thinking. Only time will tell how Ja Morant's career and legacy actually turns out. Now, time did tell how Russell Westbrook's legacy turned out, and it hasn't been pretty. We understand that Russ made the NBA 75th anniversary team, and without a doubt he's an all-time great basketball player. Stat padding or not just anyone can come out and average a 30-point triple-double and win an MVP the way he did. As a basketball player, he's a great individual, but his reputation as a ball hog and a bad teammate can never be denied. For a man that's now played with Kevin Durant and James Harden, Paul George and Carmelo Anthony, prime James Harden, Bradley Beal, LeBron James and Anthony Davis, and now Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, and to have not won anything and only made a single finals appearance, I think it's clear that he's been the problem. And even though he's not a good team player, it's okay. He still made hundreds of millions of dollars, will always be considered an all-time great. His legacy will just have some people that don't always agree, and that's okay because it's still been a successful NBA career, which is very similar to Kevin Durant, who we just mentioned, because he's also had a successful NBA career that will always have people questioning his legacy. But his are for different reasons, because Kevin's actually won and won a lot, and his situation's almost the exact opposite of Westbrook's. Because while Russ has gotten personal achievements thanks to himself, KD's gotten all of his achievements thanks to everyone around him, and it happened ever since leaving Westbrook and the Thunder behind. Throughout his career, Durant's been known as a top 5 player in the league and even been argued for the #1 player in the game at times. He's easily one of, if not the best scorers of all time, and the majority of players asked always have Kevin Durant as the most unstoppable player they've ever had to guard. But even for all this praise, when he joined Golden State, it instantly ruined his legacy up until that point, and for anything else he was gonna create. His 2 championship rings still hold little to no value, and this same reputation for him has continued by him joining the Nets super team and now the Phoenix Suns. When it's all said and done, he could be argued for top 10 ever, but he'll always be known as the guy that had to join super teams to win. Then on the other side of things, that brings us to Jerry West. In all-time discussions, a lot of the time Jerry gets forgotten about, just because he played mostly in the 60s and was a guard that played without a 3-point line, so it's hard for some people to give him the respect he was due. But make no mistake about it, Jerry West was an elite player, and the fact that he averaged 27 points a game for his career without a 3-point line is that much more impressive. And on top of that, he was always always almost so close to success. And that's where his bad legacy comes into play, because no matter how great he was, he had a 1-9 finals record that speaks for itself. Of course, it came thanks to playing for the Lakers during the Bill Russell era, but most of the time the only stat that people know from Jerry West is that finals record. And that's just a rough way to be remembered. But whether you have a winning or a losing record, that won't always make a difference in the reputation you create for yourself. Now, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's legacy was never completely ruined, and it's not terrible, but I thought it did deserve a mention, seeing that he is a top 3 player of all time, and isn't necessarily so loved by everyone. Because while he was dominating the league and winning championships, he developed a label as a difficult person to be around. He was known to be introverted and tough on the media any chance he got. He'd avoid them at all costs, and when he did have to get interviewed, he'd give as little effort as possible. He even once read a newspaper through an entire interview and wouldn't stop when asked. Magic Johnson even tells a story of how when he was a kid and a ball boy for the Pistons, Kareem refused to sign an autograph for him, and his whole career had this kind of energy. So then he retired and tried to get into coaching in 1995, but the whole league, well actually even the whole basketball world, kind of remembered this. They remembered how he acted and what kind of person he was. So he tried to coach for years in the NBA or even for a college, and nobody really wanted him. And to not want a top 3 player of all time because of his attitude, things must have been pretty bad. And he's not the only player who ruined their own legacy thanks to the help of the media, because the other major one is Kyrie Irving. For a countless amount of random takes that have had nothing to do with basketball, but over the years have continued to get him in trouble, and with a lot of them affecting his ability to play on the court, it's in turn ruined his reputation in the league. I'm not going to get into every take and conspiracy theory, but you get the point. Now, Kyrie Irving was close friends with Kobe Bryant, who had a damaged legacy of his own before he passed, because he became known as a ball hog, egotistical, and a guy that was a jerk in real life. This, combined with his bad shot selection, always clouded his legacy, and for every one person that would say Kobe Bryant is one of the greatest players of all time, there would be 2 or 3 more that would point out one of those reasons for why he wasn't. And while this somewhat still exists when talking about him in a historical sense, ever since he retired, he would do interviews talking about why he played and acted the way he did. And he actually won a lot of people over that way. When people found out that he would be in the gym at 4 a.m. every single day, when practice didn't start till 9 a.m., when he would skip sleeping to go on a 30-mile bike ride before the Olympics practice, and he would talk about how his teammates had no work ethic and didn't always deserve the ball in those late game moments when he did, people started to regain a lot more respect for him. It was those moments where he would say things that would really make it make a lot more sense, and that kind of repaired his legacy. But there will still always be some of the hate out there. While someone like Isaiah Thomas was never really able to repair his own legacy that he set up for himself during his playing career. He's often referred to as a unanimous top 5 point guard of all time, and the way in which he led the Bad Boys Pistons to 2 straight championships against some of the NBA's all-time greats definitely helped him earn that spot. But that was also the problem, that he played for the Bad Boys Pistons, who disrupted the entire league, and played so dirty that the majority of the NBA world knew that they were the #1 villains in basketball. And it was so bad that Isaiah still has a lot of people that he can't stand, or vice versa, to this day. That's why he was selected to not be included in the '92 Dream Team, even though he definitely deserved a spot. No matter how you look at it, Isaiah Thomas is without a doubt one of the greatest to ever play the game. But you can't help but remember him as a dirty player, and only winning the NBA title for being a part of the dirtiest and roughest team we've ever seen. Now, the Bad Boys Pistons were physically rough, but when newer rules were put in to prevent that from happening anymore, Kevin Garnett decided to exploit the fact that there were no rules for trash talking and saying to other players some of the meanest and straight up disrespectful things that I've ever heard. And even though KG is a former MVP and NBA champion, usually the first thing you think about when he comes to mind is how he verbally assaulted every single other player on the court any chance he got. And I get it, trash talk's a good thing. It's an extra aspect to the game that if you're good enough, you could use to get into your opponent's head for an advantage. But there comes a limit. Calling Charlie Villanueva a cancer patient or telling Carmelo Anthony he likes how his wife tastes is just too far. And when things like this start to overshadow a Hall of Fame career, you know you may have gone a little too far. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you next time.